Well, good evening, everybody. Today I have with me Dharshan Cooray, who is also happens to be a consultant of Marga Institute. He's a founder of his own management and training operation. It's called Attitude.lk. He has been associating with Marga for quite some time, about 1.5 years now. He worked with me closely on the TVT strategy for Colombo-Trincomalee Economic Corridor. We worked with the Ministry of Skills Development and Vocational Training. That was back in 2018. Just to give a background of Dharshan, he has worked with SEMA, at SEMA with small businesses. He was the director of ICT Skills Council. He was also executive director of SLASCON, and he had worked at, I believe, Ministry of Finance for a short while. And his multifaceted talent covers areas like accounting, operations management, then sales, marketing, and even HR and finance. So, Dharshan, thank you so much for connecting with us this evening.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Amma, for inviting me.
Yes. I would like you to touch a little bit about how you see that whole training industry, that the opportunities in training in a post-corona scenario, and also talk a little bit about Marga 2.0, the platform that we launched last Friday, training and coaching platform. So, how would you see the landscape, the training space and the coaching space? Particularly, I'm not talking just about the private sector, about corporate sector. I'm talking about small businesses. I'm talking about opportunities of training for entrepreneurs.
That's a good question, Amma, and I think it's a good way to sort of get this discussion started, because I think mainstream training in Sri Lanka, if you really look at the architecture of it, if you look at the industry, how training is done is basically training is a part of HR where well, it's really a direct, it's sort of a way of making employers ready for to execute their role well and to sort of advance in their role. So it's very, it's related heavily to job roles. But if you look at this post-corona situation, right, really we have to look beyond the structures of the workplace and then focus on the business. And, a total, we have to rethink the business, because I think there will, obviously there will be a huge economic impact. The estimated figure is about 365 or 75 billion US dollars globally. So for a middle income country like ours, there will be a huge economic impact. And I did see some of the larger companies have already said first thing they're going to reduce is the training budget, which is, I'm not surprised about that. That really goes to show
companies cutting down on advertising budget when they go through a
yeah. So advertising and training are the first to go usually.
So they stop talking to the consumer and stop training the staff.
The people, yeah. So, but having said that, it could be just a temporary measure. So you have to understand the liquidity position that company. I mean, liquidity will be a huge, cash flow will be a huge problem that companies face, and they wouldn't want to be really spending on anything unless it's essential. So salaries, even salaries have been cut, so salaries will be paid, but there are day-to-day essentials to do their business, their raw materials, the overheads, and all that. So back to your question, post-COVID, I feel that there will be a very lull period in the training industry. However, that may not be what's best for us. So I think a lot of the trainers and the training organizations have been very smart in sort of picking up the opportunity. So if you have seen, if you have anyone who's regularly using social media will see most of these organizations are sort of coming up with webinars on how to use technology to sort of restructure your business, to be more lean and really manage your cash flows better, and also about managing finances, right?
Yes, sir.
So I think training, in my opinion, is more important than what it was pre-COVID. Post-COVID, the
Yeah.
right training right now is extremely important.
I tend to
So
agree with you because last couple of days I've been having discussions with Nirmal. Actually, he came on in one of our interviews, and he said in Sinhalese he was talking to a small business, and he said, "Look, don't go with the trend just because big organizations are cutting down. If you are a small organization, that's not the way to go. In your case, you have to kind of innovate, come up with a different way of delivering your product. Think of new service delivery platforms. And even today, when I was speaking with Nelum Gunasekara, who's a gender and social development specialist, she had been working with ADB for a long time. She was also talking about women entrepreneurs, particularly those who come from sort of vulnerable communities. So they have to learn to adapt to um, this new situation. So the question is, who's going to teach them, and who's going to foot the bill? That's because I mean, training obviously comes with a cost. We as trainers or whatever, we have to be compensated. But who will bridge that gap in skills when it comes to small businesses? People I'm particularly interested in uh, the informal sector, people who have a cash flow, who work day by day. They have to rely on the days pickings for them to pay their, probably the lease payment for their trishaw, or pay for rent or whatever, keep aside for rent. So there comes a question: who will come forward with packages to take these small enterprises to a level so that they can cope with the economic downturn? Uh, that's, I think, we need
uh,
to look at that.
so that's another good question, and you framed it in the right way. So like any industry, Dharma, I mean, we need to sort of think about this industry more holistically. How this industry fits into other industries and the economy itself, because the for the economy to revive, we need to sorry we need to be careful of the fact that in the short run we shouldn't really go behind numbers, or do business the way we always have been doing businesses. So I feel it's the duty uh, of the trainers, professionals who have experience with SMEs, who have run businesses, to really step up the game and use technology to deliver knowledge, use networks. I saw a post on Facebook or WhatsApp saying, once this is all over, let's start buying our own produce, even at a slightly higher price, and help our SMEs. So I think that kind of attitude, using our networks, being innovative, changing the mindsets of people. So I mean, those are really important ways of reviving the economy. So in the short run, I think that we can't go on a traditional model of charging high amounts and sort of having a brick and mortar based training module where we will have a training in a hotel or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to sort of look at a new way of, we have to use digital channels, and we have to think of, taking these guys out of this rut, the SMEs out of this rut, and then sort of facing these problems together. And once the economy picks up, yes, they will be the ones saying, look, we need training now, and we are willing to pay you. So I think that's the approach, that's the way to go. And I think there will be a lot of trainers. If you look at myself, I've been working with SMEs for a long time, and they're usually the trademark of an SME is they are very competent in sort of producing or selling their product, but usually their cash management skills aren't the best, and their sort of debt management, credit management is not so good, and even the accounting systems need to be sort of more structured. So that is a problem we see in SMEs. So in that case, in that scenario, we need to sort of be wary of the SMEs getting the basics right in the short run. They have to get the basics right, and we have to sort of have a totally novel approach to this whole thing. We can't be like the education industry, and I hope you ask me about the education industry in the next question. We can't be like the education industry and do things as we've always done in schools and classrooms. We have to we have to have an approach of getting together and helping these guys out through training, and B, we have to use our networks to make sure that we support them to sell their goods, to get back into their normal sales routine, and C, we have to make sure that we see them through in the next 3 months.
So it's like actually embarking on a journey with them, right?
Yeah.
A lot of hand-holding at the beginning, and finding out
to give you example, now we Marga 2.0. So you just wanted me to, so you wanted me to talk about Marga 2.0. Yeah. I'll give you so that I think the example I'll be giving will be very useful to understand how Marga operates. So one of the things we want to do is to start a marketing course, right? Targeting SMEs and targeting those who are in the front end doing sales, just to make sure that they use innovative methods to sell in this difficult point in time. So we want to make it very industry oriented. We want to get the insights from industry specialists and see how best you can sort of sell these products. And if you really see, there are basics you can really use. Sometimes in insurance, they always say first start with your family members. Are they using insurance? And then start with your classmates. So if we really stick to these basics and get these things right, I don't think it will be a problem. So we have to really stick to the basics.
The other thing, Dharshan, the next question I want to ask you, since you are involved with the insurance industry, you are also lecturing at the moment, I believe, Institute of Insurance, right? Now, is there a possibility of working with insurance companies to see that they come up with a new product for entrepreneurs? Insurance schemes, especially for women entrepreneurs, to have some sort of a safety net, have some sort of a kind of a social security or insurance, so that they will be covered. On top of we see the post-corona effects. Sorry, it's not like an event, one-time event. Like I was a little while ago, I was speaking with another associate of ours, It's not like, tsunami or a flood or something. After a little while, okay, the effects of that particular event is gone. But I believe where COVID-19 is concerned, the effects of it will be long lasting. We will, our behavior will change. The way we interact with people, we will have certain amount of social distancing for a while, maybe 6 months, maybe 8 months, I don't know, maybe even 10, 12 months. So the point that I was trying to get at is uh, there will be difficulties uh, for small entrepreneurs to find markets, especially women to have access to their raw materials or whatever. So, is there a way we could, as we look at the journey of a small enterprise, taking them from where they are, where they want to be, and coaching them and training them, and have some insurance also uh, as a safety mission? Or are we trying to take too much?
Yeah, to correct you there, actually, I'm a member. I mean, I'm certified by the Sri Lanka Insurance Institute as a wealth planner. So actually, I'm at a consultative level. I give financial consultancy to potential clients. So I think for SMEs, there are enough of options. I think the insurance industry is really geared for SMEs. So I don't think there is a problem. I don't think there is a problem of having to develop a new product. I think the
Okay.
problem is really awareness and pitching it in the right way. Because you can start a basic savings product or an investment product where you get your disability, life, and medical cover for paying 5,000 rupees a month. So uh, I don't think that will be a huge financial outlay.
Mm-hmm.
And for the benefit you would get from that really outweigh the cost that you're spending. So I think there are enough of products, but I think the insurance industry has to be innovative in and proactive in going and meeting female, like you said, women entrepreneurs, SMEs, and uh, making them aware about what they can get and what rates they can pay at, because insurance is seen as like a expensive thing. So I think again, it's all about a matter. It's a matter of consolidating. It's a matter of really thinking out of the box to ensure that people know what is out there for them and what help they can get.
And finally, I want to ask you also, this is connected to Marga 2.0. We were talking about values, how we need to bring in values, knowledge, attitude, uh, all that skills. Uh, and especially at this time, and for over a month, people are indoors, have been indoors, and maybe they had time to think about what they really want, uh, how they should manage stuff, and when they come out, um, do you think that the, the whole value set that we were talking about, uh, we were talking about how for a balanced life, that essential quality of values come in. Uh, and we were looking at a different market. We were not looking at small enterprises. We were looking at completely different market. People who are in their like 40s and 50s, 10 years before getting thinking of retirement or going to retirement. But do you think even small enterprises will be open to this whole concept of wax that you were talking about, wax or whatever that you were talking about?
Yeah. Do I have time to just explain the concept and
Yeah.
why it's necessary, or
Why it's necessary? Yes.
yeah, because I think answering that question would really, I had to give some context to it. Uh, so really, the problem we were trying to solve is with education system itself, right? And this is one of my research interests, and I have been doing a lot of research. So really, we are using an education system which was used in the 1800s, really developed in the 1800s for industrialization, right? Where like the industrial, where we have like a production line, we have the same approach for educating our children. We put them into buckets, and we say, okay, at this age you get this knowledge, at a later age you get a certain amount of knowledge. And there were a few people, actually, I did a lot of research. There was a committee in the States, including representatives from very well-known universities, just a handful of them developing this model which was then adapted globally. Now, in the wake of the internet, we are moving toward, some of the more advanced developed countries are moving towards the system of less classroom learning, where you can go and find out, or you can do your homework really after you do the research at home, and then you come and then you do the some of the homework in the class, because you've done your background reading. So it's a different kind of model, and the classroom is just for you to bounce ideas, for you to get clarifications from your teachers, that kind of thing. So in this kind of environment, where we, Sri Lanka is still, I think, we are still in that kind of industrial learning kind of sort of what can I say?
Stage or mindset or whatever,
factory kind of environment, the production line, and I call it production line environment, where we are just a one-way street. We know we have certain things we want to teach our kids, and they learn. So Marga 2.0 really came in for the benefit. I mean, I know that you are quite aware about this, but for the benefit of the listeners, we developed this to address those gaps. Then you spoke now about ethics. So ethics is one area we are focusing on, but how do we make people ethical, really? That some people might ask, can you teach people ethics? What is it that you want to drive? Especially now you were talking about the COVID period, where people are at home, and whether they'll be able to think about more ethical behavior and all that. So my answer is yes and no. People will think about, I think there's a lot of, if you really look at social media, you get a lot of people saying, this is Earth's way of giving mankind a warning, or sort of taking disciplinary action on mankind, and
slow down, as it were, no?
Yeah, and people have to now realize there's a greater force working, and then Mother Nature is also wary of the fact that we are not looking after our environment. So yes, those aspects are there, but really the fundamental studies when it comes to ethics really comes from your family, and there's a lot you learn in school. There's a religious aspect of it, but I believe that there is a lot of knowledge that we can impart, and there is a lot of exposure that we can give when in the sense like when we are giving people values, like when we are teaching people about having good values, because without values you cannot really succeed. Now I was just telling you about this marketing course, right?
Yes.
Again, if you are a good salesperson, you have to be a good what I believe is you have to be a good person, right? Because I mean, if you constantly try to play the customer out, or you have a end game in mind to sell an inferior product, and this applies to SMEs also. you are not going to succeed in the long run. So that's what we
Exactly.
real education is. What I mean, I've spoken about real education. So I say in the first R is about being relevant to sustainable success. You can't sustain success if you're not ethical. So in our teaching, we are going to talk about values that you have to portray. If you're marketing or a doctor, or if you're going to learn accounting, we will focus a lot about values, and we are not going to teach people saying, you have to have certain these values. If now for your exam you have to write what are the
Values can't be taught. It's
exactly exactly
it's not something that you can learn from a
exactly
classroom. It's something that
exactly.
comes through
But what we do
socialization,
is
exposure.
exactly. But at the same time, we can influence people's thinking, and say, okay, these are some of the scenarios where if you don't have a good set of values and principles, you won't succeed in the long run. And this is what has happened to certain organizations. I can give so many examples of the most qualified, most successful, so-called successful people, how they just break off, taking business from their teachers, their bosses. I mean, people who have groomed them, paid them for so long. I mean, just break away and take all their clients. I mean, this is. I mean, I have seen it in almost every organization I worked in. So, it's a common problem. So we have to sort of tell people, this is what could happen to you also. When you're an entrepreneur, this is what you can happen. So you have to instill those values in people and constantly tell them, you are doing a certain responsible role, and you have to be an example to others. And if you do not have values, you're not going to succeed in the long run. So those apply to organizations as well as individuals. Yeah.
So, Dharshan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Sure.
I think this conversation has been quite enriching, and listeners could continue this discourse with us, this dialogue, conversation with us, particularly about how do you bring values into our learning. I hate to use the word education after listening to, how do you kind of build people, from in our environment. How do we kind of inculcate certain skills on people so that they will be successful and they will be able to sustain that success. And most importantly, as we discussed this last Friday with Inti and Rumesh and you, at the end of the day, we want to produce a society that's happy and content. And so we are going through tough period. We probably face a lot of uncertainty, but we have to face it with confidence, knowing that we have the goods. We are resilient enough to overcome. So thank you so much, Darshan, for your thoughts.
I think if I can just say one
Yes, go ahead.
if I can leave one thought in the minds of the listeners. I mean, so a lot of people say, okay, if a good or a bad person depends on his experiences in life. How he was brought up.
I totally disagree with that whole idea. It's how
exactly.
people. At the end of the day, we are responsible for what we do.
Exactly.
And
so what I'm going to say is, if you are going to make your past an excuse, and if you are going to do the same thing to someone else, even if you have had a bad experience, and I know a lot of people, they have a lot of trust issues when they're doing business. They don't trust because of a bad experience they've had. But if you are going to do that, you're just going to be that person. You're going to produce people like yourself. I mean, who have had the bad experience, who will have a bad experience like yourself, and the chain will keep on continuing. So you have to break the chain. So you have to make the change. You have to be the change, and you have to act differently. So it's all about you.
Anyway, thank you so much, Darshan. It was a pleasure to have you with us, and we will continue to have these discussions with some of our Marga consultants as well. Darshan will, let's concentrate on Marga 2.0, and I think we should roll out these short duration programs that you have been talking about. And we should do it sooner than later.
Definitely.
And let's look at our future in a positive frame of mind, because there are opportunities with every crisis. So with that being said, let's hope that tomorrow will be better than yesterday. Thank you so much, and have a
Thank you.
pleasant evening.
A good night.
And be indoors, stay indoors, and stay safe. Darshan. Take care.
Thank you. Same to you.
Good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.